And we're back, and this is Hook and Ladder.
What's happening?
What week are we on here? Week 10. Week 10 has come to a close, and Georgia remains number one, undefeated, clear number one team in the country. They knock off Missouri 43-6. We watched this game from a little restaurant in Atlanta.
Yep. Didn't cover the spread.
No.
Georgia dominated them, and they started off kind of slow first quarter. Second quarter kind of turned it on. Basically played the second quarter like they've been playing the first quarter of most of the season.
Right.
But turned it on, kind of took the foot off the gas. Second half, brought in a lot of young guys and dudes who don't get to play much. But yeah, 43-6. Honestly, I don't even think it was that close.
It wasn't even a game. I mean, it took a while to get going. Maybe it's just the noon start.
Yeah.
It's hard to get up from Missouri.
Yeah, and then I think their running quarterback, they didn't really have a whole lot of time to prepare for the kid that was going to play because he came in second half of last week's game, a true freshman, not a lot of film on him. He had a couple of nice little QB keepers there that got him in a field goal range, but when they were threatening to score and Georgia's defense clamped down, made him kick a field goal. So and basically it was over right after that. So
that's correct. LSU in a kind of a nail biter against Alabama, 20-14. Alabama wins, remains number 2.
LSU snaps a streak of 35 straight games, I think, where they scored over 30 points. Only scored 14 in the second quarter, couldn't get a point the rest of the game. But LSU had, they had a chance to win. Hail Mary at the end, they had a chance to win it. Got to give credit to LSU, man. Like, Ed Orgeron's gone. They know he's gone, and they're playing.
They're playing
whether they're playing for him or they're playing for each other, I don't know, but they're playing well. And all we could say is like, okay, maybe they're playing for him. That's all we can kind of speculate, really. But yeah, that's a nail biter of a game. Everyone thought Alabama was going to roll LSU this year, and it was a close one.
Yeah, I'm just wondering when Alabama was really going to show up. At some point in time, they're going to put the game together and it's going to blow somebody out. Michigan State loses to Purdue 40-29. It's another one of those. You mentioned Purdue the past 2-3 weeks. Yeah. They're going to mess somebody's season up.
Ruined someone's season. They ruined Iowa. They ruined Michigan State yesterday. I saw this morning they're calling themselves the Purdue Spoiler Makers, which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, man, we said it last week. Don't lose to Purdue. Yeah. It killed Ohio State that year. Kept them out of the playoffs. Like I said, Purdue knocked off number 2 Iowa. They knocked off Michigan State yesterday. Purdue's not like a great team. But like I said, a few years ago they beat Ohio State, and
they show up when it matters.
They're gonna do a pretty good job ruining people's seasons.
They've done a good job of it so far. Michigan State, they're still in contention.
Yeah,
but you can't lose to unranked teams. It doesn't look good for anybody. Oregon continues to take care of business, 26-16 against Washington. We didn't see any of this one.
I saw the highlights. It looked like it was a miserable over there in Seattle, like cold and wet. Oregon, survive and advance. Number 4 team in the country. Obviously probably going to move up one spot with Michigan State going down. All they can do is just win that conference championship game, and they're probably going to be in the playoffs.
That's correct. Ohio State knocked off Nebraska 26-17. Ohio State, they beat them, but it doesn't look like in a dominant fashion.
No, Ohio State's running game didn't really get going yesterday. Stroud had another good game, threw a couple of picks, which he hasn't done in a while, but wide receivers for Ohio State are so good, it's ridiculous watching those dudes play. But it was a closer game than I thought it was going to be. I thought Ohio State was going to beat the hell out of them. And, they're sitting there at number 5, probably going to move up to 4, like I said, with Michigan State going down. I'll see what happens.
Yeah, slowly drift
away.
Yeah,
I mean, right, just like Oklahoma. We've talked about this many times on this show. Ohio State and Oklahoma are 2 teams in contention that have their schedules backloaded. Next week is when the real meat of the schedule for both of those teams starts. So we'll kind of see they got to play Michigan State and then Michigan, I think, back-to-back weeks. So coming up here. So we'll kind of see if Ohio State's really a playoff team.
That's right.
I think they are, but we'll see.
Cincinnati defeated Tulsa 28-20. That's where game day was this past weekend.
Yeah.
And,
awesome signs. Kudos to the kids in Cincinnati. They made some great signs. Cincinnati had to beat Tulsa by more than 8, in my opinion. We've talked about this before. I got into it with Chris Hansford today a little bit. He has them in top 4. Look, They belong at 6. I said it before last week. I don't hate Cincinnati. I like Cincinnati. I want Cincinnati to get into the playoffs. I don't think it's going to happen. They're probably going to go undefeated, but they're not winning with style points.
They're not winning convincingly enough to do this.
The playoff committee said it last week. Look, they beat Notre Dame. That's their best win. What have they done really other than that? They're beating teams that are just kind of garbage teams. Yeah. It's really not their fault. They play who's on the schedule.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think they deserve to be in there, but I don't think they're going to get it. I think they're going to get jumped by at least, well, they don't need to get jumped. They're already at 6. But I said weeks ago when they were in the top 4 that Ohio State and or Oklahoma was going to jump them. And it basically has already happened.
I could see a 2-loss team jumping them. To get right down to it, there's a good chance that Ohio State, Michigan State, and Oregon all lose the game the next
Alabama?
year. Alabama will have, assuming that they lose.
Alabama's a 2-loss team. I think those teams you mentioned would probably, especially if one somehow has a conference title, jump them. But, we'll see. I like Cincinnati, man. I want Cincinnati to do well. It makes the game more fun for everybody, especially us, the fans. If Cincinnati's having these great seasons, magical seasons, getting in the playoffs, I still think it's going to happen.
Michigan knocked off Indiana 29-7, dominant fashion. But again, it's we still got 3 games left for most of these programs, so who knows how this is all going to shake out.
Good for them to bounce back after that horrible loss to Michigan State last week. Good for them to bounce back though, like they did. Just kind of get ready. Yeah. Just keep going till you got to hit Ohio State. And
a game that I believe you called, North Carolina knocked off Wake Forest.
I did call. I said they're going to beat them.
And it was a shootout, 58-55.
I didn't realize Hartman was that good. I mean, they were talking about during the game Heisman contention, and I was like, then they showed the guy's stats. Like, oh, that's why Wake Forest is undefeated. This kid's good. But a heck of a game, and it was a lot of fun to watch. You knew North Carolina just couldn't disappoint the entire season, right? They had to
sooner or later they're going
beat somebody, and I called this one. That's kind of cool. Good for them.
Yeah, I feel like North Carolina is like the Purdue of the ACC. They're just going to mess people's season. At this point.
And I got to give North Carolina credit. Those uniforms yesterday, they should wear those uniforms for all of their home games. Those were awesome.
Yeah. Notre Dame defeats Navy 34-6, and don't sleep on Notre Dame here. 34-6 win. They're 8-1.
Number 10 in the country.
Might shake out. They could theoretically get in there if everything kind of fell just right.
Yeah, they got to have a lot of teams lose, but it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah. Oklahoma State defeated West Virginia 24-3. Ho-hum 8-1. When did they play Oklahoma?
I believe last game of the season.
Last game of the season.
Bedlam.
Yeah, so who knows? They might win that game, and then chaos will ensue. Baylor was knocked off by TCU. Lots of rumors of TCU right now. Dion.
Yeah. Patterson gets canned, Thursday? 2 days later, they come out and beat Baylor, number 12 team of the country. A team that was poised to possibly play for the Big 12 championship. Right. Now it looks like they're out of it. Yeah. But good for TCU, way to rally around each other and rally around the other coaches that are still there.
Right. Texas A&M defeated Auburn 20-3. Bo Nix. They kept them contained, and it showed in the final score.
Fumbled. Worst fumble. 3-3 at the end of the half. Boring. All right, and then Texas A&M decides they're actually going to do something. QB got rocked. Now I can't remember his name. The QB for A&M. Dude's shoulder came out. He got nailed by, it looked like another targeting call by Monday, number 21 for Auburn. But that would be like his 4th of the season. Didn't get called. Hit him. Dude's shoulder come out. So he runs the sideline, and you can hear the guy saying, it's out. And they're like, it's gross. It looks like it hurt like hell. But they come back. Bo Nix had that horrible fumble in the 4th quarter. Was a scoop and score for A&M. But Bo Nix is that guy, right? He's going to scramble around like a crazy person, make a bunch of plays happen. Every now and again, he's going to scramble around, make a bonehead fumble or bonehead throw it up to somebody, and it's going to be a turnover.
Yeah. And, they had everything to play for right there, and A&M still has something to play for.
And, Auburn is sitting there just like A&M. They both have 2 losses in the conference. Obviously, A&M's got the upper hand by beating Alabama and Auburn. So if something happens to Alabama going forward, if Auburn is able to knock them off, A&M's going in to the SEC championship.
That's right. So technically Auburn can still mess things up in the SEC right now. BYU knocked off Idaho State 59-14. Ole Miss knocked off Liberty 27-14.
The return of Hugh Freeze.
And there's open tryouts offered by Mike Leach in Mississippi State, 28-31.
Open tryouts for kicker.
Yeah, they were 17th in the country. They're 5-4.
This is what's funny. The starting kicker missed 2 field goals. So with the 2 seconds left in the game on the line, they're like, you know what? Let's bring in the backup guy to kick the field goal. And it was worse than the other first 2. It was horrible. They showed the camera angle from behind the kicker, and all the Arkansas fans are like this. Yeah. And as soon as that dude kicked it, they knew that was no good. They started screaming and hollering. Good for Arkansas. Yeah. I love what Sam Pittman said after the game. He's like, we're going bowling. I don't know what bowl game we're going to, but Arkansas is going to a bowl. Good for him.
Well, in all honesty, these 2 programs are heading kind of in the right direction, I think.
Yeah.
You got Mike Leach. Yeah, he's a little crazy man, but they're winning for him. Granted, they're 5-4. But they had a kicker. That'd be 6-3.
Yeah, they probably would have tied the game and gone to overtime to see what would happen.
Yeah.
And I like what Burks, the wide receiver, the future NFL player Burks, a wide receiver for Arkansas, I like what he had to say after the game. He's basically like, we're playing for each other, we're playing for Coach Pittman, and we're playing for the Razorback fans. And I love that attitude from the players.
That's right. Moving right along, Tennessee knocked off Kentucky 45-42. Kentucky's lost 3 straight now since they got defeated by Georgia. You let a team beat you, and then it cost you 2 other games.
Georgia's killing some teams this year.
They had a lot to play for now.
Arkansas lost, I think, 3 in a row. Kentucky lost 3 in a row. Florida they lose to Georgia and then absolutely get demolished by South Carolina yesterday. That was fun to watch. But Tennessee's good. Tennessee is way ahead of schedule. And that's not just my opinion. Like, everyone's talking about that. They can score really fast. They got that big play capability. They are dead last in the SEC in pass defense, though. So
we'll see next week. They got Georgia.
You look at the box score right here, and Kentucky moved the football on them. Couldn't stop those big passes.
That's right. Moving right along, NC State knocked over Florida State 28-14. What can you say? NC State, they're playing well. Illinois knocks off Minnesota 14-6. Win 2 more games, they're both eligible.
Yeah, Minnesota knocks off a ranked team, second-ranked team they've knocked off this year. Good for them.
Illinois. Wisconsin 52-3. All of a sudden, they're playing well.
Yeah, all of a sudden, they're playing really well. I mean, I don't think... Well, I watched the first game of the season when they played Penn State. Their defense was good. Offense, they were abysmal. And they've seemed to figure that out, scoring 52 points. So
maybe Mertz is kind of starting to lock it in, and he's playing to his talent level. Iowa knocked off Northwestern 17-12. Boise State knocked off number 23, Fresno State 40-14.
Fresno State,
I don't understand.
Such great offense. They ruined UCLA's season. They come in, I think they beat somebody like a week or 2 ago that they shouldn't have beat, and then all of a sudden they lose. Yeah. Just unexpected fashion, they just lose.
And Boise State kind of lackluster 5-4 season.
Yeah, they were so much fun to watch for years. They still are. I mean, they're still a good product when you watch it on TV, but just, they can't continue that success that they had. Yeah. What was it, Chris Peterson? Had them rolling. He was getting 2-star recruits out of California and touching them up, coaching them up, getting them a good weight program, getting an offense built around these guys, and they had a good product on the field. Yeah. And that just obviously he left. Harsin took over. They just couldn't keep that kind of success going. Right.
And the number 25 team of the country, Pittsburgh, bounces back after they lost last week and knocks off Duke 54-29. I
gotta check out the highlights of that, see how Kenny did, because I like him going to New York for the Heisman ceremony. I don't know if he's going to win it, but I like him going there.
Okay. And next week, we get games Tuesday. So you get 2 days of recover from the weekend, and you're right back playing football games. You got Buffalo.
Tuesday and Wednesday.
Wednesday, Thursday. It's the end of the season.
Who's playing Thursday?
We got North Carolina and Pittsburgh.
At Pitt. That'll be a good game.
Big game in the ACC. Friday night, Cincinnati against South Florida. They'll be in South Florida. Wyoming, Boise State will be Friday night as well. High noon. Alabama takes on New Mexico State. This will be their next last regular season game. I think they got the bye next week.
They already had their bye.
Oh, they already had the bye? Okay. Never mind then. Michigan against Penn State, which would be
at Penn State. That'd be a good game. Noon.
Baylor, Oklahoma, high noon on Fox.
That is probably the game of the week right there.
Yeah. And then you got Mississippi State against Auburn at
Which
noon.
those rankings are off.
They're off.
Both those teams lost, so Mississippi State will probably be unranked maybe.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter. It'll still be a decent SEC game, SEC West game. That's kind of a mess this year anyway.
Yeah, you got a Wisconsin against Northwestern at noon, of course. You got Florida against Sanford. I hope Florida pulls that one out. Let's see what else we got on the docket. You got Georgia at 3:30 against Tennessee in Knoxville. I'm curious to see how Tennessee plays.
That could be a good game. Like
Could
you said,
be.
Tennessee's got that big playability, explosive plays. They can score quick. Georgia's got the best defense in the country, but I mean, eventually somebody's going to make a couple of big plays and put some points on the board.
Yeah.
Georgia's offense, to me, is good, but not like...
It's not elite.
Yeah, it's not like Oklahoma, Ohio State caliber right now. They've got the players. Their wide receivers for Georgia are really good.
And I think if JT Daniels ends up starting or getting back to where he's getting significant playing time, those receivers will be bigger factors in the game.
Yeah.
But right now, without him playing, I don't think they're going to be able to throw the
Bennett
ball.
likes to throw the quick stuff. Now, Bennett has thrown some deep balls for touchdowns this year. He did it yesterday.
It feels like prayers.
Yeah, there was some lucky passes he threw yesterday, some ill-advised passes that were caught that most times I don't think would be caught.
Right.
I like JT Daniels' arm. Bennett, though, gives him that running ability. I still think Georgia wins because, like I just mentioned a little bit ago again, Tennessee is the worst pass defense in the conference. I think Georgia's going to be able to throw it. I think they're going to be able to run it. I think Tennessee, I'm going to call this right now, Tennessee scores more points on Georgia than anybody will this regular season.
Yes, but will they break 20 points?
Well, I mean, dude, if they break 14 points, that's more points than
that's
anybody's
true.
scored
That's
on.
true. I just had the opinion where if Georgia scores 20 points, they're beating everybody this season.
They've only given up, I think, 3 touchdowns all season. And that was in 3 different games. So nobody has scored more than 1 touchdown per game.
Right.
I'm going on a limb saying Tennessee puts 2 on the board, maybe kicks a couple of field goals. I still think Georgia beats them like 30 to like 20 or something, 30 to like 17 or like 19, something like around those lines.
I'll go with that. Ohio State takes on Purdue. You called Purdue last week.
They're the spoiler makers.
Spoiler
I don't think they're going to do it 2 weeks in a row, but I also said they wouldn't do it 2 times this year, so I was wrong on that.
Yeah.
I don't think Ohio State still remembers that loss a few years ago and how it ruined their playoff hopes. I don't think it's happening this year. Ohio State's going to take them down by a big margin.
Yeah, let me go back to that. Hold on a second. I don't know what's going on. Okay, going back to where we're at. Okay. Hold on. Give me a second. I'm dropping the ball here. Double click the mouse. Okay, here we go. Here we go. More better. 3:30 games.
Minnesota, Iowa.
Iowa, 3:30.
Again, Minnesota lost yesterday, so they'll probably be unranked. It's still a pretty big game in the Big Ten, but it just doesn't have that.
Playing for pride. Here's a game that would be, any other year would be like top-notch game.
Marquee matchup.
Miami against Florida State, 3:30. I have both these two players.
Miami's playing really well lately.
They are playing well.
I expect Miami to roll, but
Yeah, I would just the game.
5 years ago that'd be like the game of the week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Miami, they've been 8-4 for the past decade, and Florida State was when the decade started. They were 10 years ago. They were winning 10, 11, 12
winning
games,
national championships,
and now they might not be bowl eligible.
Yeah,
it's crazy to me. Let's see what else you got. USC and Cal. There's been times where that would be a big game.
Yep. USC's terrible, so is Cal.
Mich-
Cal lost to Arizona.
Yeah. Michigan State's going to try to bounce back against Maryland. That's the 4. Texas A&M, Ole Miss. Huge game.
That'd be a big game. Yeah, 7 o'clock, ESPN.
Yep.
At Oxford, Mississippi.
We've been there. It's a cool place.
It'd be a big game.
Yep.
There'll be a lot of points scored in that game. Take the over.
Yep.
I say take the over every time Ole Miss plays.
Yes.
Oh, they did not make the over yesterday.
Yeah. Kentucky's got Vanderbilt. I see Kentucky getting right against Vandy. Fresno State takes on New Mexico. 7 o'clock. No one cares, really. NC State against Wake Forest.
Wake Forest loses again, they're done.
Notre Dame takes on Virginia at 7:30. What else? Oregon, Washington State, 10:30. That'll be Saturday night late. Might be a good one. And San Diego State was the last ranked team.
TCU's got to go to Stillwater, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State. That'd be a good game. Coming off the big win against Baylor. Can they do it 2 weeks in a row?
LSU's got Arkansas.
That'd be a tough game.
Yeah, that used to be.
That'd be a really good game, actually. LSU's playing well, kinda.
Yeah.
Arkansas's playing pretty decent. That'd be a tough matchup.
Yeah, it'd be good.
Like you said just a minute ago, playing for pride. Neither one of these teams are going to go to the playoffs, but I mean, Arkansas is already bowl eligible, but that'd be a good game.
Yeah, it's probably
overall not a great week, but that Oklahoma Baylor matchup, that's going to be huge.
Yeah, well, you're getting towards the end of the season, and a lot of your big matchups are not going to happen until Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that last weekend of the season, there's always going to be some big rivalries going on there, and this year,
a lot of big rivalries. You're right.
Yeah, this year you got Michigan's good. That'll be a good game with Ohio State. Auburn's better this year, so that'll be a good game against Alabama. Some of those big-time matchups are going to actually mean something this year. Yeah,
and in 2 weeks you get Michigan State against Ohio State, which that will end one of those two teams' season more than likely. Just looking up.
It's at Ohio State.
It's at Ohio State, so everything's in their favor. You got Cincinnati's got SMU, and this is on the 20th.
Iowa State's got to go to Oklahoma. Yeah, so 2 weeks will be second to last week of the season.
Yeah.
And it'll probably be a lot better week than this coming weekend will, but we'll see what happens.
Then after that, you got the last weekend of the season.
The season has gone by fast.
Yeah, so 13. No, I mean, you say it's going by quickly. There's just been a lot of chaos. A lot of teams have lost games that they shouldn't have lost. I mean, you got Thursday, that Thanksgiving Day, you got Ole Miss against Mississippi State at 7:30. That's going to be exciting. That'd be a great game. And then Cincinnati against East Carolina, which they need a bigger opponent if they're going to get into this dance.
I think the greatest thing so far this year, in my opinion, is we have a chance. Some teams got to lose, but we've got a chance to have a top, 4 playoff teams that either A, have never been to the playoff or have only been there once. Yeah. And there's a potential that none of the usual suspects are going to be in this thing. Yes. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think at least 2 of the usual suspects are going to get in. Yeah. But, there's definitely a chance. There's some of these teams that are on the bubble are currently in the top 4 right now. And then just sitting out at 5 and 6 and 7. There's a chance that if some of these teams lose and get that second loss, they're out. And that's going to just make things so much more interesting from the fans' point of view.
The big game I see on the calendar that's going to just upset this whole apple cart is the Alabama-Auburn game in 2 weeks. I think if Auburn takes care of business
at home,
it's at Auburn too. That's a spoiler game right there. I could definitely see Auburn beating Alabama. They're not playing like juggernauts right now.
They beat Alabama, and most likely Alabama's not even going to the conference title game. It'll be A&M. Alabama's playing in probably like a New Year's 6 game somewhere, sitting outside the playoff.
Yeah,
you've got that scenario could happen with Alabama, Ohio State. And if Oklahoma loses, I strongly believe that a one-loss Oklahoma team, even if they win the conference titles, might not be getting in the playoffs.
Yeah,
it'll be that if Ohio State loses to Michigan State or Michigan State or Michigan will end up going to the conference title game and maybe winning that. I think Michigan State's actually on the other side.
Yeah, you got Ohio State takes on Michigan that day too. So, I mean, you got 3 games that have playoff implications directly.
Last game of the season is basically semifinals.
Yes, you got to win the last game of the season. But yeah, there's still a lot of good football game to be played, and who you got the conference title games yet.
Yeah,
so anything can happen.
I'm not to be a jerk, but I'm pulling for some of these teams to lose because I think it'd be awesome seeing a team like Cincinnati in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I would like to see Georgia play out A&M. In the SEC
That'd be a damn good game.
But a lot of things have to happen for that to happen. So, I guess that will conclude this week's episode. We're going to probably have a light week next week, and then you got the meat of the season last 2 weeks.
Last game was the season coming up. Last couple weeks.
That's right.
Enjoy it.
All right, you guys have a good day.
See it.